Hi, I'm Michael Appel for BizNews.com. It's good to chat to Thabo Mandila. He's the president of the Republican Democratic Party, the RDP. He's based in East London in the Eastern Cape. Mr. Mandila, good to chat to you.
Yeah, good morning, Mike, and good morning to your viewers. It's good to connect with you.
So you're no stranger to politics. Which political parties have you been a member of in the past? When did you get involved?
Mike, I grew up in politics. Politics were around me, but I became for the first time a member of the ANC, and during my days at school, I've been with the UDM, Bantu Olomisa, and then I returned back to the ANC during the time when COPE was formed. I did not resign from the ANC, neither did I join COPE, because when it was established, it was not going to be COPE. We were hoping that something new, which would be bigger and which would oppose the ANC, would be established. I've always yearned for something that would contest the ANC because I believe that for democracy to be stronger, you need to have at least two or three stronger parties that could exchange power. Otherwise, if we have got one strong party, then for me, that's not democracy. Democracy is just a word, but it's not practical. So I then got involved in what became COPE later. But I didn't resign from the ANC, neither did I take any membership of COPE. In fact, it suffices to mention that I was elected in my absence as the regional treasurer of COPE then, for the Amatole district, or region of the Eastern Cape. And then when it became clear that, I mean, COPE was not going to provide what South Africans need, then I remained in the ANC. But you'll pick up in the news, in the media, on Google that I once defected from COPE. Look, it was just a stunt pulled by the ANC because we're approaching elections at the time. So they said, no, 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 no. Don't just leave them like that. Let's put up a show so that we can beat them in the media. So it was a political strategy to sort of discredit them by saying a senior leader is leaving them even before elections and all that. But the reality and the truth is that I never resigned from the ANC and I never really took membership of COF. But I was part of uh, forming, I had this idea that we would form something that would actually, keep the ANC on its toes, as I believe that every party that is in government must never relax. It must know that there's a ready competitor that can take you on if you dare fail the people. And I remained in the ANC until in 2016, when I realized that, in fact, the ANC had no willingness, had no zeal, had no intention, had no desire or wish to do any of what it promises the people. Then I left, and the idea was to just stay at home and stay out of politics. But once I was outside, the rot became very glaring, and I had to do something. I couldn't just sit at home and watch the ANC destroying our country. I had tried inside, but no, with no success. And then I looked for an organization that I thought had a potential to actually give the ANC the scare that I think it needs. And I joined the IFP. Well, when I joined the IFP, it was in 2017. I told them that I was taking a risk for two reasons. They had the posture of a regional party and they had the posture of a Zulu party. But I said, let me give it a try so that you can either prove me wrong or right. And indeed, they are a regional party that has got no interest to grow outside KZN. For 2 years, we've tried to build IFP outside KZN. And you become an enemy when you want to take the IFP outside KZN. You become the enemy of the old guard, particularly those who regard themselves as the owners. But it must be mentioned, that it remains a dream of the prince that the IFP could be a national organization. And he does say so himself, that he is being sabotaged internally because some of those who are with him in leadership think that if you then allow the IFP to grow outside KZN, then you are opening doors for competition to them because they are preoccupied with their positions and so on. So therefore, in 2019, after the elections, we finished the election program. The ANC, I was the provincial chairperson of the IFP rather in the Eastern Cape for 2 years, 2017 to 2019, and I also was a member of the National Council, which is the highest decision making body in the IFP, and then I became the member of the National Land Committee. In fact, I developed a discussion document for the IFP on land, which then, led into the formation of the land policy of the IFP. I sat in various national committees of the IFP. And then, with some of my comrades from the Eastern Cape, we left after the national conference of 2019 and established the RTP. We decided not to register the RTP, and for reasons that I think will unfold as we talk. Thank you very much, Mike.
Okay. So, a man of many banners, a man of many colors. Some would say a political chameleon. What do you say to that?
They choose to say that because they are short-sighted, Mike. You never stop trying. My preoccupation is to save my country. And if A doesn't work, I've got to try B. If B doesn't work, I've got to try C. If C doesn't work, I've got to try D. So I will not stop trying anything that can help me to save my country from the ANC until I die. I don't care what people will call me. They can call me what they want. I can tell you one thing. I would have been very far in the ANC if I was preoccupied with self, with my own political career. I would have been very far. A lot of people in the ANC who are ministers and everything are not even half of what I am in politics in every respect, and they respect me. They know me as an honest leader, as a leader of high integrity. I'm telling you today, I enjoy a lot of respect from very senior leaders of the ANC because of what I am. So if people choose to say I'm a chameleon, I mean, it serves them too. So, but I feel for them because they are being short-sighted. We can't stop trying to save our country because we are afraid of what people will call us when we try many attempts. Hence, we decided now, you know what? All these parties, we've done a study. None of them is going to help taking this country forward. Let us establish something new, but we still have to lobby them because there is not one new party now that's going to take over government with immediate effect, and we need change as soon as yesterday. So, one of the roles that the RGP plays is to try and engage political party leaders into what we feel should be a pre election coalition or a merger of parties towards the elections, because post election coalitions have proven not to work in our country.
Hmm. So, a mutual contact of ours reached out, wrote to BizNews to say, quote, you are charting an anti-corruption course and a strategy of coalition politics to unseat the ANC. Have you been in discussion with people like Musimai Mane, Masiwe Lakota, Herman Mashaba, Ngaba Banga, Ethel Trollip? How is your coalition organization coming along?
Okay, let me start with Mashaba. I've had a discussion with Mashaba. Mashaba dismissed me right from the very onset. And I understood him. I took a risk when I approached him because I know him. Remember, I've got a background in NAFCOC. He's been a businessman for many years, so I've known him even though he has never known me. So I understand his character. So I wasn't shocked when he dismissed me, you know, and I don't want to dwell much on that. I spoke to Reverend Meshwe. I had a very interesting discussion with Reverend Meshwe. Reverend Meshwe also dismissed me, but in a somewhat different way to Mashaba. He didn't dismiss me in an arrogant way, undermining, or in a sort of a cocooned manner, where you think you are the man, you the means to an end. No, he was a very respectful man. He told us that look, he deals with a specific constituency, and he wouldn't want many of these partnerships and coalitions and could contaminate that constituency. Well, in my own assessment, he seems to believe that he's got a soul ownership, so to speak, to the Christian community. I mean, that's how he sees it. No problem. I've spoken to Athol. Athol has been very dismissive right in the beginning. He told me that he was retired from politics. He refused to even have a meeting with me. I was shocked when I saw him now at Action SA. And even then, I spoke to him. He had promised that we would talk, but I called him. He didn't return my calls. I spoke to Bantu Olomisa briefly. We wanted a meeting with Bantu. He said we must write him something down. We had an engagement, sorry, with my leadership, where we felt that, you know what, if they cannot agree to a meeting, let's not write anything down to them. Let's request a meeting with them. If they're not, let's wait. We have a lot of reasons that we had engaged quite extensively on the matter. I spoke to my man, a very wonderful man with big dreams for his country, a lover of this country. We had numerous discussions. I spoke to Likota, a senior statesman, a man who listens, a man who, you know, and June 16, 2020, the three of us had a meeting in Centurion, a physical meeting. You remember it was lockdown, and then physical meetings had just been allowed. So we took a chance, and then we met with wonderful discussions. In the main, we saw eye to eye on everything. I'll tell you, for example, with my fingers crossed, I told Ms. Likota that, are you aware that you're not going back to Parliament in 2024? And that could be the end of your legacy. And now is the time for you to ride on a new vehicle for the sake of what you've offered to this country, to continue with your legacy. Because once you get out of Parliament, it will be the end of COPE, and that will be the end of the legacy and whatever you believed in, and so on. And yeah, we've spoken to Ngaba Panga. Is quite a junior. We spoke to Ngaba Panga whilst we were in the IFP, when I was a provincial leader of the IFP here in the Eastern Cape. I had discussions with Ngabapanga. Unfortunately for him, it was difficult dealing with him because he couldn't take any decisions. He couldn't do nothing. When you have discussions, you always had to call Stenizen or my money and all that. So, yeah, but we're quite fond of each other. We don't have a problem, but there's not much you can discuss with Ngabapanga because he's got no say. He does what he's being told. Obviously, I think it is a structure of the TA. I don't know, or whatever the case, but he consults in everything. Meanwhile, even though I was the chairperson of the IFP in the province, in terms of the provincial, geographic space, I had the authority to make decisions as long as I could ensure that they were in the best interest of the party. So I've consulted with all of them, but I can tell you where we got a very good audience was with Maimane and Likota. We also approached Zile. I had some discussion with Zile as well, and then she undermined me to the core. But that's politics. You'll meet different people, you get different responses, and so that's it. But you take nothing personal.
So, what's the plan going forward for 2024? You've engaged all these different leaders. You realize that the RDP party is not in itself going to boot the ANC out of power. What does the roadmap for 2024 look like?
Let me first tell you why the RDP cannot put the ANC. It's funding, purely funding.
Mm.
The RDP, if we're to sit down, I'll tell you exactly. We are the only party that's got the formula to remove the ANC from power. But unfortunately, that formula requires money. Where there's no party, you can speak to all of them. There is absolutely no party in South Africa that, let alone having a formula that even has a clue of what it takes or what it should take, or how to remove the ANC. We're the only party. We have a clear roadmap of how to remove the ANC from power. But unfortunately, running a political party is a very expensive, exercise. And without funding, unfortunately, we can't do that. Now, funders in South Africa are only funding celebrities, political celebrities. They're not interested to even listen to the content that you're positioning to them. If you've been seen on TV, then to them you are the person they can fund, irrespective of the fact that you stand for nothing or stand for something. But you must be a popular person. They don't know that in politics, your funding Mr. Appel, can make me popular. You want me to be popular before you fund me, but you forget that in politics, if you fund me, I can be popular. So we have a strategy to answer that, but until we're able to access a substantial amount of funding, we can't be able to do that. Secondly, we are continuing to engage political parties. And we continue to inform them that, look, even with Mosima Iman and Likwata, when we had a meeting June 16, 2020, I told them that none of us is going to succeed on our own. And I told them, and to a best of laughter, that if money was not a problem, only the RDP has it in itself to remove the ANC from power. One of the advantages is that I know the ANC more than the majority of the leaders, even in Lutuli House. I know and understand that organization. I've grown with it from the grassroots. I know its pulse. I know its pulse from branch to national. I know its strengths. I know its weaknesses. I know why it wins elections. And I know how it can lose elections. But all of that requires money. So in the main, you need both. Whilst we have the strategy, even if we were to access funding, for example, we would continue to lobby other parties because we believe that on their own, they will make no impact. So you need two or three or four of, at the most, five big animals that can turn the ANC.
I notice there is one party you haven't mentioned, Mr. Mandila, the EFF. You're not speaking to them?
That's a very interesting one. Look, we have made attempts to contact them, but unfortunately, the fighters are extremely very arrogant people. They are gods. I mean, I've attempted, I've had a meeting with Dalimbofu, for example, and probably the less I say, the better. I've attempted to get hold of Ndlozi, of Shivambu, of Malima, with no success. Those guys are gods. They will talk to you because you are the media. Whilst they fight for the people, there is no one they undermine more than the people. I can tell you now, I could call Malima now. He will probably dismiss me like a piece of trash. We approached them for one reason, exactly the question you're asking, because we didn't want to them later to say we've never approached them and why. Even though there is absolutely nothing in common between us and them, we do not believe that they've got the interest of the country, and we also believe that they are more a, a better version of the ANC, so to speak. We believe that even if they were to govern something which will not even happen in any way, they would do more damage to the country than the ANC has. So hence we have not really, we, cosmetically, we said, well, let's approach them. It was more cosmetic because we didn't want to be seen as having an attitude to them. Because what would have then happened was that when we approached them, we positioned ourselves. We either agree or disagree, and that's it. Even though we knew that in the main we would disagree, but we said let's approach them, let's disagree. Because another advantage in approaching them is that you might be able to win some of the individuals. But let me tell you, not all individuals in the EFF are really EFF. Some of them are simply there for personal opportunities, personal, gain and interest. They're just towing the line so that personally they are okay. Again, you ask yourself, is that the kind of leadership you want in your party? I'd say, well, but politics is about numbers and quality as well. So
Mm. Now, your Twitter handle states, quote, radical economic transformation is mission impossible. What does that mean?
very interesting that you've read that. Look, first and foremost, the reason it is, almost Twitter will limit you to certain words. So when you write on Twitter, you simply just provoking a debate mostly. It is mission impossible indeed, for a number of reasons. One reason is that the ANC is dishonest about it. Remember, Jacob Zuma brought this on the towards the end of his term. Now, this is what they always do, ANC leaders. When they should vacate office, they introduce new things and they become extremely passionate about these new things. The ANC, for example, is not interested even in that radical economic transformation. And secondly, do we really need radical economic transformation? I don't believe that we need that rubbish. For me, it's rubbish. But even in their own context, it's impossible. They can never achieve it. They are not willing to achieve it. I'll tell you why. Bring me one major corporation in South Africa that does not have a senior ANC leader as a director. Bring me one. One, just one. Mention one. One big, big, big major corporation in the. So transformation means putting themselves for their own personal selves, personal interest into in front of money because that's who they are. They are corrupt, and it's not new. ANC was corrupt right in the 1960s. ANC has always been corrupt. In our next interview, if you want us to talk about the corruption of the ANC, I will outline it to you in the 1960s, how it played itself out. What you see today in the ANC is not new. Corruption is a true character of the ANC, and many people don't know that. I have been in that organization. I know that organization. So when we say radical economic transformation is mission impossible, we mean that it's not even true to begin with. To begin with, they are lying about it. They are not interested. Secondly, there's no need for you to be radical when you transform the economy. You can simply transform the economy. What radicalism needs in the transformation of the economy? Transformation of the economy is a practical thing, something that you simply implement. You draft policies that are realistic in transforming the economy and you implement them. Why do you need radicalism in that? So it's just a way of attracting the attention of the people because the people believe that everything must be radical. We must fight, even when it is not necessary. So in the main, those are the reasons, and the fact that they're not going to do it because the current situation benefits them. There are various models of economic transformation that would work. I'll give you for an example. They talk about land. We must take land from whites to. They have got hectares, thousands and thousands of hectares themselves personally. Do you think they will want to take land from themselves? Hell no. Secondly, go to every ANC government municipality. They are selling land to white developers every day. So which land are they going to take? If you were to take land, don't you stop selling first? You say you want to take land. So I continue to sell land to white people, and I tell the public, those who do not want to go and even read what is this document of the municipality when IDP, communities don't even read IDP. And then you go tell them, we'll take the land because it is a popular narrative. So it's the same thing with the radical economic transformation, so-called radical. Number one, there's no need for radicalism in the economic transformation. Even white business people are willing to participate in economic transformation. I mean, we were in the ANC, Provincial Economic Transformation Subcommittee of the PAC. There was a man called Andrew Murray. He's a white guy. He was the one who preached the deracialization of the economy more than all of us. When many of us were concerned about what they could benefit personally, Andrew Murray was preaching the 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 the, the the deracialization of the economy. You've got a lot of white people who have developed many black businesses, to successful businesses. They've contributed in that. So there's no need for radicalism. There's not much opposition to the transformation of the economy from the white community. Maybe it's just a few super rich people who may not necessarily be, but in the main, generally, I've seen white people being pro deracialization and the transformation of the economy.
Let me ask you, could South Africa survive another 5 years of the ANC at the helm if they get, let's say, in 2024, in 2024, if they win with a majority? A lot of pundits are saying it won't happen, but if they get 50, if they get 50 plus one, can South Africa survive another 5 years of them?
Let me tell you something. I'll answer a question you have not asked. There are two things that will happen in 2024. One, the ANC will win elections. Two, even if the ANC loses elections, it will get about 45%. the leaders of the smaller parties will race to Lutuli House to offer their votes to the ANC in return for ministerial positions.
As kingmakers.
Yes, so the ANC will still govern in 2024. Whether it wins or loses, it will govern. Because many opposition parties have failed to present themselves as formidable alternatives to the ANC, to the South Africa, to this country. Most of the leaders of political parties are only concerned with self. When they negotiate anything with the ANC or any party, it's not about the people, it's about self. Look in Durban now, a typical example. A new party that was campaigning against the ANC, saying all sorts of things about the ANC when it campaigned. That party, the leader is a mayor with the ANC in the Durban Metro. I mean, you know what I'm saying. You're a journalist, I'm not. So you know what I'm saying. So those who think that ANC is gonna get out of government in 2024, I'll tell you the only chance that the ANC may not govern in 2024 was if RDP was to access funding. Because I can tell you, even if they were to get 45% with the correct funding this year, RDP could get too close to them to an extent where we would be able to position ourselves to attract some opposition parties for coalition. But still, the post-election coalition in South Africa is very risky. We've seen it in municipalities. Municipalities become more unstable than they were under the ANC. There may not be corruption in the main, but there's no stability, there's no leadership. The work is not done. So you end up with two bad things to choose from. And people end up saying ANC was better, even though they are chowing the money, but at least the stability services can still go to the people.
At least services are consistently bad, is what you're saying.
As bad as they are. So I'm saying those are the two things. Now I don't know if you still want me to answer your question, because your question was against the background that ANC will lose. Or
So ANC, let's just say hypothetically, the ANC is pushed below the 50% threshold. A political science professor, Anthony Butler at UCT, I spoke to, said hypothetically the EFF, because he believes it's a breakaway from the ANC, would be the most natural coalition partners for the ANC. And with their numbers, they would likely give them 50 plus one. It would push them over the 50% threshold. Do you believe the EFF and the ANC would join forces come 2024?
in fact, it's the first time in South Africa I get a professor analyzing politics close to the truth. He is, I would say, he is 90% spot on in my view, in my own analysis. And I'm going to back this up with something that you know. When the ANC fights, the EFF is always central to the internal fights of the ANC. If you don't believe me, when Hanekom was fighting with Zuma, where did Hanekom go? He went to the EFF. Didn't the EFF assist? The EFF assisted. So the EFF is very much preoccupied, not with the ANC, but with the internal squabble of the ANC. It's got an interest, got a vested interest in the internal happenings of the ANC. It's not where we are all interested in what the ANC does in the main in our country because they are handling our tax monies and they are squandering them. No, no, no. With the EFF, it's not like that. It's about the internal politics of the ANC. So the professor is quite, in my view, a spot on that. The EFF would grab the opportunity.
Hmm. Now, I've watched some of your videos in the past. You have actually called the ANC an evil organization. How is it that millions of South Africans vote for an evil organization?
Let me give you an example. One of the uh, socialist leaders, I read about this, took a chicken, a live chicken, and defeathered it live. So painful. took all the feathers of the chicken off. And once he finished doing that, he put some grain in front of the chicken. And the chicken ate the grain, and that chicken followed him everywhere he went. That's what the ANC did. When the ANC took over government, it closed factories in everywhere in the country. Am I lying to you? People lost jobs. Okay, maybe if I'm saying everywhere, then I'm not making sense to you. In Amtata, there were factories. In Butterworth, there were factories. I'm talking about the Eastern Cape alone. In Dimbaza, in Queenstown, there were factories where people were earning a living, were working. The ANC closed that. The ANC closed teacher colleges. Teacher training colleges were closed by the ANC after 1994. They were not closed by the apartheid government. And the ANC, having done that, promised people heaven and earth, a better life for all. Sorry. Obviously, people didn't mind because the government closing this is going to give them something better. They viewed the work in those factories as oppression until they didn't have it. 5 years down the line, ANC did not deliver the jobs. People were swimming in abject poverty. You know what the ANC does? ANC gives them grants. They are following the ANC everywhere it goes. And ANC promises them it will open teacher colleges. It doesn't tell them why it closed them in the beginning. And remember that by closing those teacher colleges, later on we're planning a crisis of a teacher shortage in South Africa. Don't tell me you don't remember that. Where the teacher college, so they created problems with the hope that when they solve the problems, people would forget that they are the creators of those problems. Now, ANC went to Venezuela to study the People's War. They sent a delegation, and when they came back, there was black on black violence, which ended up being blamed on the IFP. That black on black violence was started by the ANC. The ANC killed black people more brutal than apartheid. You burn somebody alive, you put a tire on top of a person, you pour petrol, you burn them alive. I don't remember apartheid government ever doing that, but ANC did it consistently to the chanting of Amandla, Amandla. That is a very evil organization. In exile, in exile, many people who went to exile who did not return were not killed by the Boers, were not killed by apartheid government. They were killed by the ANC. They may lie and say it was because of malaria and everything. Then I challenge you to read the Chris Hani Memorandum. I don't know if you have read that book, that document. I will send it to you. Read the Chris Hani Memorandum. Then you will have a glimpse of how evil the ANC is. So it's not out of hatred that I'm saying the ANC is an evil organization. No, 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 no. It's honest. I've got evidence to back that it's an evil organization. ANC started killing in Utenig with tires, burning people with tires. Whilst you face the liberator who should have understood that if Mandela does not give the police what they want, the police will threaten my family. So if I give the police what they want, then the ANC will kill me. So that's what black people were subjected to. So for me, the ANC is no better than the apartheid. It might even be worse, by the way. But that's a debate for another day. So indeed, it is an evil organization that has administered the killings and bloodshed of many, 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 many people in this country. Chris Hani himself was going to be buried alive, not by the apartheid government, by the ANC, because he dared to challenge the leadership of the ANC on specific matters. I'll send you that document. I've got it, that Chris Hani memorandum. They dug 20 dungeons. They were going to kill Chris Hani and his crew, bury people alive. That was what ANC did. You dared to raise a question in exile. You were dead. You were regarded as a spy or a rebel because you needed to toe the line and do as they say, because these people, all they were doing was to loot the very resources that were meant to fund the armed struggle. They lived lavish lifestyles in exile and more and more and more and more. But indeed, they are an evil organization.
Mr. Thabo Mandila, it's a fascinating conversation. Thank you for your time, and I hope to speak to you again in the future.